I am sorry, I was muted. Welcome everybody to this program. It's our quarterly business forum with the SBA. My name is Jackie Peralt and I'm the director of the Jacksonville Women's Business Center. We're super excited to have you here today to talk a little bit about brand and digital marketing, as well as supplier diversity. But before we kick off today's program, I'm going to introduce Natalie Hall with the SBA, and she's going to go over the programs and services that they offer here. She represents our North Florida District Office. And thank you for being here, Natalie.
Hi, Jackie, and thank you for having me. Welcome everyone to this event. And I am, as Jackie mentioned, Natalie Hall with the U.S. Small Business Administration here in Jacksonville, Florida. The SBA North Florida District Office, our territory is from Orange County down to the Panhandle. Here at SBA, I am the Economic Development Specialist as well as the Veterans Rep. And my role is to provide programs and to market and promote the programs and services of SBA. So I'm going to, that's not what I wanted to do. I know I didn't do it right. Give me a moment. This is the one that I want to share. Share. Okay.
That's perfect. So we can see it, just hit present.
Now, come on, I'm not seeing it.
Or if you go down to the bottom bar, all the way to the right, the very last one before Zoom. Yep, that one right there.
This one?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. So, like I mentioned, I'm with the North Florida District Office in our territory, so Orange County down to the Panhandle, and I am excited to be here to be able to share this information regarding SBA programs and services. So the Small Business Administration, our role is to help individuals that's looking to start, grow, expand, and also recover. And how do we do that? We do that by a network of resource partners that we do partly fund. Sometimes individuals may not connect with SBA because they feel like we're federal government and we're there to look over their shoulders to say, we caught you doing something wrong. That's not the case. The agency was created again so individuals that's looking to start a business or grow a business, so that way they can be successful, help their communities, and also create jobs. Okay, so and again, that's why SBA was created. Outside of being economic development specialist, I'm also the Veterans Rep for the North Florida District Office, and it's basically the same role. I go out and market and promote the programs and services to our veteran community, including the spouses, as well as aligning myself up with veteran community leaders as well as stakeholders, so we can join forces to help us to get the word out about SBA programs and services. So we have a network of resource partners, and of course the Jacksonville Women's Business Center is one of SBA resource partners. You already connected with them because you're on this event, so you already know about them. Okay, so our resource partners, so we couldn't do what we do without them. So the resource partners, as you know and have met, the first resource partner, the Women's Business Center, we have SCORE. Some of you are probably familiar with the SCORE organization as well. We have the Small Business Development Center. And for our veteran community, including the spouses, we have the Veterans Business Outreach Center. Again, all four of the resource partners are partly funded by SBA to provide you with free business mentoring as well as counseling. All four of the resource partners put on a host of workshops January through December, and some may have a small fee to attend and some may be free. So that will be the only out-of-pocket expense that someone would have to come out their pocket for to work with one of our resource partners. Okay, so I'm sharing this information because a lot of times individuals don't understand a connection. You know, you call the office and say, hey, I'm interested in starting a small business, and someone may refer you to a resource partner without truly explaining how the connection is made. SBA cannot do what we do without our four resource partners. Again, you see SCORE, the Small Business Development Center, the Women's Business Center, and the Veterans Business Outreach Center. So if there's someone that needs support with their business, I generally just tell the individuals, hey, check out everyone's website, and you can get their information on the SBA website, which will be sba.gov, which is easier. If you plug in sba.gov, you'll get to the national website and plug in your zip code, and you'll get to the North Florida District Office website, where you will find the resource partners' contact information. So that way, if you're looking to work with one, you can see all of their information and look at the success stories, the types of businesses that they help. And whoever you decide to work with, that's who you call, so they could begin to assist you in whatever area that you need support in. Okay. Outside of the 4 resource partners, you have your local SBA North Florida District Office as well. So our contact information is on the screen, and we're located at 7825 Bay Meadows Way. The phone number will be 904-443-1900. And plus, we have plenty of information that's on our website that constantly stays updated and gets updated. So if there's someone that's, just interested in learning a little bit more, but may not want to speak to anyone right away, please visit the website, which will be sba.gov/North Florida. And if you're on social media, we would love for you to connect that way as well. And it's at SBA_NorthFL. Okay, outside of the Twitter, if you're not connected to SBA, you may not use social media, you can connect to us by email. So if you get onto the North Florida website, you can plug in your email address, and we're pushing out our information on a monthly basis. You will see everything that we're sharing. Okay, so this particular slide right here talks about certifications. The first information was the counselors, which were the 4 resource partners. And here are 4 certifications that the SBA does have: the 8A Business Development Program, the Hub Zone Program, which is the historically underutilized business zone. We have the Women-Owned Small Business Program, as well as the Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Program as well. Again, all of this information can be found on the website, or you can just go to certified.sba.gov, and it'll go into more details about the certifications that are through the SBA. Okay, the next will be capital. So we talked about counseling, contracting, and now capital. SBA, we do have a loan program. We don't lend directly. We don't provide grants. Our loans can go from anywhere from about 500 up to 5.5 million. Okay. Also on our website, you can see all of the information as far as the banks that participate, the different types of loan products that we offer, what the loans can be used for as well. Okay. So we had microloans as well as back SBA loans as well. And for someone that's interested or might be looking to go after financing, one of the great tools that you can utilize is one of the 4 resource partners. Okay, like I said, you guys are on here, so you're probably already connected with the Women's Business Center. You can use the Women's Business Center or any of the other resource partners to help to get you bank ready. Because what we don't want is someone to approach a lending institution and get told that you're not bank ready. So if you can actually work with someone and it's going to cost you nothing but your time, why not take advantage of that to work with one of the resource partners, especially if you're looking for funding. So that way you know what to expect from them and what they're going to expect from you as well. So again, this covers the SBA loan program and how it works. And like I mentioned, we don't do direct lending. So you do have to approach the lending institutions that participate in our loan program. All of that information can be found in our website as well. Okay, and the last would be the disaster. Of course, we know SBA, for those of you that don't know, SBA does have a disaster loan program. It's not done directly through the local district office, which I'm from. We do have a disaster office, which is called the Office of Disaster Assistance. And of course, right now we're living through COVID. So there are several loan products that are out there that a lot of small businesses are going after. PPP, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, as well as Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Okay, and again, that information on the different types of disaster products can be found on the SBA website, or you can go to sba.gov/prepare. Okay, outside of what's going on now, if a hurricane should happen in this territory from Orange County down to the Panhandle and it gets deemed as a disaster area, what generally happens is a disaster team generally sets up in that area. But means how COVID is, we didn't have a team to set up because it happened all over. But generally, whichever area is deemed a disaster area, an SBA disaster team will come set up for that area. And those individuals that are business owners, homeowners, or renters can go after disaster assistance. Okay. So that right there is basically a quick overview on the SBA programs and services. And like I mentioned, you can see that information that I just shared with you on the SBA website, which would be sba.gov/North Florida. Again, my name is Natalie Hall. And if there's anyone that has any questions or concerns and you want to reach out to me, I would love to talk to you. My email address will be Natalie, NATALIE.HALL@SBA.gov, or you can reach me by phone, 904-443-1902. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon to hear all of this great information that's going to be shared with you guys. And I thank you again for giving me an opportunity to share this information with you. Turning over to you, Jackie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. We truly appreciate all that you do and all that you've done for the small business community this past year to make sure that we're resilient in Northeast Florida and have all the information we need. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate all that you do. Folks, we will also make sure that this presentation is accessible to you on our online classroom. We'll send out an email to everybody tomorrow that will host all of the presentations and recording for today. So with that, we'll take a second to see if anybody has any questions. I don't see any that are in here just now, but I will go ahead and then begin our Women's Business Center programs and services. So I'm sharing. Oops. Excuse me. Hold on just one second. There we go. All right. So the Jacksonville Women's Business Center is in its 17th year of existence. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Jackie Geary, the director of the center. Just wanted to present to you a little bit about what we do and how we offer services as a resource partner. Our mission is dedicated to expanding the entrepreneurial and economic development of women business owners in Northeast Florida. As you can imagine, during this past year, we've embarked on a digital transformation. So we were really able to not only just serve our 7-county region of Northeast Florida very well, but we are also embarking on being able to capture a lot of just North Florida in general. So the Panhandle and everybody that leads to Jacksonville, and then south of us all the way to Daytona. So we're really trying to understand the climate of the business owners and collaborate within our state as well. The Women's Business Centers is one of over 100 centers in the country. There are 4 in our state. So we, just like I mentioned, serve that North Florida area. We have a center near Orlando that's in Space Coast at We Venture. We have a Tampa Bay Women's Business Center and our South Florida Women's Business Center. So if you can imagine, there's so many business owners in our state. We are sectioned off into very high populated areas, but there's a lot that we can do and are trying to do to make sure that we are serving everybody the best way. We cover technically the 7-county region, but we do expand outwards, and we offer entrepreneur education, counseling, mentoring opportunities, and business connections through networking. We have an entrepreneur certificate program, which entails our core suite of programs. So we have 5 core suite of programs, which include the venture leadership, customer development, financial matters, marketing matters, and legal matters. If you complete 4 out of those 5 core programs with the Women's Business Center, we honor you with an entrepreneur certificate, an opportunity for a success story, and some promotion nationally. So that's an exciting program that we offer through our educational resources. We have 2 graduates that went through the program last year digitally through 2020 and successfully were able to get their certificates. That was an awesome success for them as well as us. And we are on our way to make sure that we are graduating people this year as well. Jax Bridges is another program that the Women's Business Center helps to promote, because the Women's Business Center sits, we sit in the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce. Now we are under the Chamber Foundation because we are a nonprofit funded cooperatively through the SBA. So with that initiative, we are in venture services. Venture services allows the entrepreneur ecosystem to strive and grow in our area. Venture services compiles of the Women's Business Center, Jax Bridges, and Open Innovation. So I just wanted to highlight Jax Bridges really quick. It's an incredible program. If you've heard about it, it's one of those best kept secrets. It is not marketed at all, but we are currently just graduated last week, our 14th cohort. This program is sponsored by the state. So we go out and get state funding for this program. So it is offered at no cost to the entrepreneur, and it is a cohort program where we dive deep into things like your capability statement, value proposition, cash flows and revenue streams, and et cetera. So that's an exciting program, as well as I mentioned, we have a graduation, which is our Bridge to Business event. Real quick, just wanted to, I like to show this slide because it really helps. We offer this in our orientation, and it's what we use to kind of explain what the Jax Chamber entrepreneur ecosystem is. You'll get a copy of this presentation deck afterwards, so I won't go through everything, but what we always do is we want to identify the areas of which our stakeholders or our entrepreneurs need assistance. And then from there, how our programs and services correlate to those key needs. So as you can see there, there's Jax Bridges on there, Nonprofit Center, Jax USA. We've got a Career Source, the Chamber Councils, etc. A lot of people ask the Women's Business Center, how or who could you help? So we want you to know that we help everybody from startup and dream stage to transition and maturity. So that is any business owner in between. We have the abilities to help you get registered for your business, Sunbiz, all of those kind of introductory courses. And that's where legal matters fits in to understand how you should register your business. And then we do programs that help the maturity of the business grow and expand. I'll get to one of those highlighted programs in a moment. Some resource partners that we collaborate and make sure that we collaborate and do resource partner events with. You'll see those logos here on the screen. As mentioned, definitely the SBA resources, SCORE, SBDC are on there. You'll also see other programs from North Florida, and we get together on a quarterly basis and have discussions based on our ecosystem. And we have a website that's called northfloridasmallbizhelp.org. The program that is the premier networking, or excuse me, premier mentoring program is going to be the Athena International PowerLink program. That is a year-long program where a female entrepreneur is assigned a high-stake level advisory panel. This panel goes into the business owner's deep depth and understands what they need in order to succeed or grow at that time. This is somebody who qualifies with several years in business, high revenues, and is seeing some sort of transition or growth where they need an advisory panel to assist them with that. We have a funnel program for this. A lot of times people don't meet the criteria right away, or they meet everything but one. So we have a program that we have formatted to be able to funnel people into Athena PowerLink, which is international, and that is our hyper-connected mentoring. Hyper-connected mentoring is a process that uses tools and technology to be able to identify the strategies and conditions that the business owner has and needs assistance with. We talk about blue and red ocean strategy, and we really try to identify where they are and where they're competing. Just like Natalie mentioned, we work closely with the resource partners. I wanted to include this contact information for you to see for our resources. During the pandemic, the SBA, as well as the Association of Women's Business Centers, put together a resource site for disaster relief efforts. You can visit covid-sb.org and find out all of that information. It's aggregated from a lot of different areas. That's where you can go get up-to-date information for any disaster relief programs. Last couple things I wanted to touch on is the Jax Chamber Jobs Board. So last year with the pandemic, another thing that the Chamber did in partnership with Career Source Northeast Florida, Jax USA, and the Jacksonville Women's Business Center was we put together a jobs board. And it was a place where not only people could find employment, but it was a place where employers and small business owners could go to find people to work for them. This is still an active site, so we like to promote that you can use this for employment purposes. We have a Facebook page. We want to make sure that you know about that so that you go on there and like our Facebook page. You'll see our upcoming programs, events, as well as small business, education, and resource news. And lastly, I just want to leave you off with some things that are ahead for us. So coming soon, we've got new technology. We are working on blockchain technology to be able to provide feedback loops for entrepreneurs within 48 hours. If you can imagine, this will build a portfolio for you to be able to not only enhance your time with us at the Women's Business Center, but to also be able to go and access and use other resource partners. And with that, that is the presentation for the Women's Business Center. We are a nonprofit, so if you are inclined to donate and give back and want to support the women of Northeast Florida, you can do that and it's tax deductible. All right, thank you very much. At this time, I am going to invite Jen Kelman up to share her screen, and she's going to present digital branding and digital marketing. I'm really lucky to have known Jen for a little bit of time. She's a dear friend of mine, and she has a lot of experience in this realm, so I'm excited for her to present this to you. But a little bit about her background. She has run national marketing departments for 2 successful companies and now owns her own business. She moved to Jacksonville about 5 years ago from Atlanta, where she pursued Jacksonville because of her passion with marketing. She's been recognized numerous times in her career as a leader and one to watch in the city of Jacksonville. She was recently recognized as a Jax MVP by the Jaguars, and she is one of the 17 young professionals in the city to serve as the Jacksonville Chamber's Hightower Emerging Leaders Fellowship Program in 2018. She continues to be recognized over and over again for being a significant difference maker in the Jacksonville community and for Jacksonville's future. She launched her business in 2019 with her passion of helping companies succeed to motivate and that's what motivates her on her long days. She truly makes herself an extension of her client's team and serves them as if she was a personal CMO. With that, I want to welcome Jen. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I think Jackie is going to throw up the slides here in a minute, but it's great to be with you guys. Thanks for joining us on this sort of rainy day. I think it's getting sunny again now, though. Jackie makes me sound way cooler than I am. I'm just kidding. No, but I appreciate that and appreciate all that the Women's Business Center does for us. So as she mentioned, I am going to discuss branding and digital marketing today. If you want to go to the next slide, Jackie, you can. We're going to go through who I am just really quickly, what digital marketing is, the importance of it, and then a few tactics that as a small business you should be taking advantage of. And then we're going to do a quick activity, just entry-level social media checklist. But after this presentation, if you have any questions, I'm always available for consultations. I just love meeting business owners. Small and medium-sized businesses are really my passion. I love helping strategize and really, make sure you're getting the greatest bang for your buck when it comes to marketing, because there's so much out there that you can be doing. So the last slide will have my contact information. Please, please, please be sure to reach out if you have questions after this. And then you're more than welcome to throw a question in the chat throughout the presentation if I'm going too fast or say something that doesn't make sense. You can go to the next slide, Jackie. So a little bit about me. Jackie did a great job introducing me, but I'm the owner of JSK Marketing. We are a boutique agency based in Jacksonville Beach, but we serve really nationally, but a great amount of Jacksonville-based companies. As mentioned a minute ago, we focus primarily on small and medium-sized businesses and really getting involved in the strategy to ensure you're optimizing your budget and getting the biggest bang for your buck, because we know your dollars are valuable and you don't have often the budgets that these national players have to play with. So we work with you to make sure you're just engaged in the right things and doing the most with your budget, your time, and your resources. And then it's really important for you to know that with us, we take it very seriously, that we're transparent, that we're available, and really serve as an extension of your team. We don't want you to look at us as just a vendor. I'm actually hands-on with every one of my clients. So if you ever meet with me, you don't have to worry that I'm going to hand you off to someone else. I am really passionate about that. And that's what I didn't enjoy when I was on your side of the table as the business owner. So it's been really important to me to make sure, A, that I'm involved with all my clients, but B, that you're able to reach me and that we're always being transparent and we're helping you truly grow. You can go to the next slide. So these are a few key differentiators with JSK Marketing that I just like to point out. People, you always have a dedicated team to you. You don't have 20 people working on your account, but you have one expert in whatever area it is. And then, like I said, I'm always involved. We have really great data and run lots of campaigns and have full transparency through some great partnerships that allow us to show you where your campaigns are at any moment in time in one consolidated place. And along the same lines, we have really white labeled and partnered with some organizations that allow us to give some proprietary technology that is above where a lot of the marketplace is, which has really helped us to scale, but also helps your business to scale quickly. And then we have proven insights and technology to drive results. We're all performance-based. We love, obviously, some metrics like impressions that you've maybe heard or clicks, but what we really care about are people visiting your website. Are they visiting your store? Are they calling you? That's really what we're going to focus on when we are working with you as JSK Marketing. You can go to the next slide. So what is digital marketing? I get this question all the time. People have heard all the buzzwords, SEO, SEM. My little short definition that's fun is that digital marketing is anything that comes to marketing online. So anything on the internet, whether it be paid or organic, and organic just means that there's not paid advertising getting your name in front of people. So think, the search engines, what pops up, social media posts, that kind of stuff. But anything online that is marketing related is part of digital marketing. So that can be through a variety of tactics. But when we talk about digital marketing, we're talking about all the marketing on the internet. You can go to the next slide. And why is this important? Well, as you can see in this stat that was recently released, 81% of people go online before they ever make a purchase. I think we all know in this day and age, and I think COVID pointed it out more than ever, but with people having these devices in their hands all the time, spending most of their job on their computer, especially with remote work, people are spending the majority of their day on the internet, which makes sense. So when they're going to research something or shop, they're usually going to the internet first if they're not making their final purchase there as well. You can go to the next slide. So these are just a few tactics. There's obviously tons out there. You may be doing some of these. We definitely encourage, if you're not doing these at a minimum, that you at least explore whether they're the right fit for your business. But social media, email marketing, SEO, and we always kind of filter blogging under SEO. And then a few forms of paid advertising are just really, really beneficial to any company. It's kind of the starting point. When you're a business and you're looking at marketing, we kind of evaluate these first because they can't seem to be the pillars that everything kind of falls in between. But no, this doesn't encompass everything you could be doing, but these are just, the minimums that we say, hey, you should be at least exploring whether these are the right fit for your business. Next. So, social media tips. What we're talking about here is not paid social media, but the actual posting. You maybe have started a social media page, maybe you're rocking it, maybe you're not sure where to start because you hate social media. I tell people all the time, if it wasn't my job, I probably would delete mine with as much political talk and stuff that goes on there these days. But whether we like it or not, social media is a necessary evil when it comes to promoting your business. I like to remind people, though, you don't have to be everywhere. And what that means is you don't have to do every platform. I always would rather a client pick one or two platforms that they think their people are actually spending time on, and your people are your target audience. And focus there, do it really well. Don't spread yourself thin if you don't have the resources. So a great example would be if you're a boutique, maybe you spend the majority of your time on Facebook and Instagram because that's where studies show that women are spending the majority of their time when it comes to social media. Another thing is always be consistent. Again, if you're not spreading yourself too thin, this is a lot easier, but it's not just about consistency in posting. It's also about making sure all your posts have the same look, feel, voice, so that anytime people see it, before they even see your name or your logo in the post, that they can go, oh, that's JSK Marketing, or oh, that's so-and-so, put your company in the blank. And then we always recommend create a content calendar. This is just going to make sure that you're organized, you're covering everything you want to cover, especially if your business has a lot to offer. This is incredibly important to make sure you're giving equal exposure to all the services or products that you bring to the table. This also makes sure you don't miss any of those holidays, that kind of stuff. So a content calendar is key. This is usually the first step when we take over social media management. We work with our clients on creating and managing, just to help make sure that they're connecting with all of their audience and promoting all of their business. And then the last thing I would say with social media tips, make sure you're using a scheduling tool. We all are busy, and nobody, especially if you're a business owner, has time to log on right at 4 because that's the optimal time to post to Facebook or whatever the case may be. So a scheduling tool will allow you or someone within your organization or a partner to log in, automatically load that content calendar for a week or 2 weeks at a time. Typically with social media, we say not to do more than 2 weeks ahead because, as you know, the world changes really quickly. But you can get it all kind of taken care of, and then that scheduling tool automatically posts to social media for you. There's some great ones out there. So if you ever want to ask me my suggestions or do a little research, there's a lot that are free. And then there's several that are really inexpensive. And typically these have way better insights than Facebook or Instagram or the actual social media platform's going to have themselves. So you'll really get to see where your ROI is coming from with social media too. You can go to the next one. The next tactic we're going to talk about is email marketing. Email, a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, isn't that a thing of the past? Don't I just end up in spam? Yes, you might, but the realization is email marketing is super affordable. It's practically free depending on how large your audience is, how many emails you have. So using something like Constant Contact or MailChimp allows you to super easily build out an email, create campaigns, and target your people through email. Now, typically we see a pretty good ROI if you have a really invested audience. My tip here would just be make sure you're personalizing it and making it informative. Don't make it the hard sell all the time. You want to provide valuable content. So again, we'll go back as a boutique as an example. If you're running a sale, that's great stuff to provide. If you have a new shipment coming in, show some features, but don't bog it down. Don't add too many words. Don't make this long list, just a few key points, and really consistently add value to your emails. And you'll find that people read them and don't just move them to the trash. The reason people don't open them is if they feel like you just spam them with stuff that's not related to them. So that's definitely something we can help with, as if you have conversations with me, or at the end of this, if you have questions about that. We're going to keep email marketing quick because most people have done it to a degree or seen it in action, but those are a little helpful tips to make sure you're maximizing that tactic that, again, is super affordable and doesn't take a lot of time. Next. Search engine optimization. So SEO, I'm sure you've heard this buzzword. This is one of my favorite tactics, but just keep in mind, it's the marathon approach, not the sprint. So a lot of small businesses come to me and say, I don't have the time to be patient and wait on this, but SEO is really, really important for your long-term digital health. This is what is going on in the back end of your website, within your content, within your pictures, within your website, to make sure that when people are searching for something related to your business, that you're showing up on that first page of Google. Because as we know nowadays, nobody goes to the second page of Google unless they're really, really looking for something. And usually they don't even go past the first 3 or 4 options. So SEO is helping you climb that ladder. It can be expensive, but in the general terms, compared to search advertising, which we'll get to in a minute, it's actually very, very affordable and well worth it in the long run. But again, you have to have the patience here to know that SEO is the marathon, not the sprint. So you're not going to see, immediate benefits with SEO, but within 6 months, you should really start seeing great traffic driven to your website. There's so much that goes into it. It's super technical. So a lot of people ask me, well, once we do all the technical stuff, aren't we good to go? The problem is Google and other search engines are always changing their algorithms. So having a partner or an expert on your team that can help with SEO and making sure you're always keeping up with what the marketplace is doing and what Google's requiring is important. And brought into this too is making sure that your YouTube channels are optimized if you use YouTube as a social platform, as well as your listings like Google My Business, because Google owns those and gives preference when it comes to businesses using, obviously, their other platforms. So all of that plays into your SEO, which is important to remember, but it's a really, really great tool that a lot of small businesses overlook just because it doesn't bring sales in the door right away. But long-term, the investment there is going to play out and be much more beneficial than on the advertising side. Even though I'm a fan of SEM, SEM can get really expensive, and SEM is just the paid sides of search engines, which we'll get to in a minute. You can go to the next one, Jackie. So next we're going to talk about blogging, which is another part of SEO. So again, this is like email marketing. Again, isn't blogging kind of a thing of the past? Well, its traditional form of what it was used a little bit, but what blogging does is it positions you as a thought leader so that you're talking about current events or current things that are going on in your business. It allows you to have somewhere for all that stuff to live, so that you're informing your people consistently. But also what's great about it is Google and other search engines give you SEO credit because you're adding valuable content consistently to your website. So they go, ooh, they're an authority here. And that's also helps you climb that ladder. So it's a great way to reach your target audience with really, really niche topics. It also helps you to start ranking maybe for some things like, say, for me, I'm a digital marketing company. Well, obviously digital marketing is going to take me some time to grow organically within the search engines, but blogging might help me really start climbing a little quicker, at least for social media management, if I'm pumping out a ton of blogs about social media. So it's just another tool to help your SEO grow. We always want to create consistent quality content as part of our SEO strategies. So blogging is one way to do that easily. And it gives, again, a natural place for that to live versus having to rewrite your pages all the time that are interior, like your services and solution pages. You can go to the next one. So next, we're going to go through a few advertising or digital advertising strategies, starting with search. Search is probably the most common you've heard. So this is where you're on Google and you see those first 2 or 3 listings. It says ad really small next to it. Those are people paying to be there. The thing to know about search is it's solely based on keyword searches and a little bit of geo. So the difference here is knowing that we can't fine tune your audience per se. We can't, like with social media, we'll talk about in a minute, we can really target your exact person. Here, we're hoping to show up when people search for terms relative to our business. So again, for me, a great example would be if I was running paid ads, I want to make sure I'm clicking or I'm showing up when people go digital marketing Jacksonville. That would be a great example of the kind of terms I should bid on. The nice thing is with our AI technology, we're able to make some of those adjustments to the campaign. And this is where we really are able to help our customers because it's changing in live time versus a human having to change it. But even if you're starting small with AdWord campaigns, trying to do it yourself, paid advertising is all based on keywords. So you really need to be able to do the research on the back end to make sure that you know what are people actually searching about my business. There's tons of tools out there. This will also help you with your SEO, just knowing what words and topics you need to be really speaking about on your website. Same thing here. We're just bidding on ads for keywords instead of having them embedded in our website to eventually grow in value on the search engine. So it's the only downfall I would say to paid advertising, and it pairs really nicely with SEO. So typically, if you're starting out with SEO, we say, hey, maybe you want to, if you really want to kind of jumpstart this, let's look at some paid advertising in the search realm, just because it kind of gets you up the ladder a little bit quicker. But the only downside, like I said, is that it can get really expensive because it's all based on demand. So a great example of this would be that real estate right now. You guys know the real estate industry is crazy busy. So right now, if you're trying to bid on a term like new home Jacksonville, so that you're showing up when someone Google something along those lines, you could be looking at paying $20, $30, $40 per click. So that's just the tug of war here. It's all based on demand, how many people are actually searching for those terms. So the most popular search terms are going to be more expensive. So just know that when you're looking at digital advertising, search can be higher up there. I just don't want anyone to have sticker shock if they kind of explore this avenue, but it can be a really great way, especially when to grow your business quickly. It's kind of the sprint approach to pair with the marathon approach of SEO. You can go to the next slide. And then another part of paid advertising is targeted display. So I have this little example here. There's so many different types of targeted display. These are just a few that I've listed that are pretty common. So site retargeting would be if someone's on your site and they don't make a conversion, we can follow them through the internet for 30 days. So say that might be what's happening here with American Express in this example. Someone was on American Express, didn't fill out information, and so now they're getting followed throughout the internet. I know that I love to shop, and so sometimes the things I leave in my buggy follow me through the internet. That's exactly what that technology is. It's following people. These are usually pretty affordable overall, just because they're pinpointing specific people that we already know the audience. We're not shooting to a broad, so your impression counts are much smaller, but typically your conversions are higher because you're targeting people that are already involved with your brand. Search retargeting is retargeting people who have been searching for relative key terms. So think back to what we just talked about with paid. Those are people that we're serving ads to that have been searching for things related to your business. So if you're a car dealership, for example, someone searches for a term like new Volvo Jacksonville. So then Volvo could potentially serve ads throughout the internet for 30 days to those people that are searching terms like that. Or it could even be BMW bidding on Volvo. So all those kind of things play into that. But that's kind of what search retargeting is. So those are the two types of retargeting. One's based on people actually visiting your site versus one's based on search terms people are putting into Google, Bing, Yahoo, all the above. Geofencing, we actually draw a little bit of a fence around property, and that is and target consumers based on their mobile device's physical location. So TPC, if I'm a golf store, I can draw a fence around Sawgrass and then serve people ads that visited that location based on their location services being on. You might say, well, a lot of people are trying to be private and turn off that setting. Yes, but you got to remember, if anyone's tagging a location on Facebook, using their maps, any kind of app that's using location services, we can still track them and serve them ads from there. And then addressable geofencing is where we actually use a property line to reach consumers at their home on their devices. So where geofencing is a specific location and then your phone pings there, then serving addressable means we're serving you in your home. Think a mortgage company might want to do that for a specific zip code, that kind of thing. The newest thing that's becoming really, really popular, you're going to hear OTT more and more. This is basically streaming. Obviously, Netflix doesn't do commercials, but the rest of them do. And there's the paid versions and then the non-paid versions. OTT is becoming more and more popular because it's pretty low cost and you can get some pretty specific data and target pretty specifically by household based on behaviors of what people are watching and doing on their smart TVs. So OTT is really mostly within streaming networks. Think Hulu, if you're only doing the entry level or you're not paying for a subscription, well, all those ads are can be pinpointed to you specifically based on your behaviors versus if John Smith down the road is watching the same show, he's probably going to get different ads based on his behaviors. That's where OTT is. So a lot of the TV stations will start pitching this to you if they haven't already. It can be really beneficial, especially we've seen it work really well in like the home improvement sector. Then a curated audience is where we build a list of local households that meet location, demographic, and interest-based criteria, and then target specific demographics based on that list that matches your target audience. So this is where we're creating a specific list and then targeting of people and targeting based on that. So we're saying, okay, middle income, live in this zip code, like to do this, and this, and targeting them. You'll see we talk a lot about this same kind of thing within social media marketing. Lookalikes is taking the people you already have and creating audiences that mimic them. So similar to curated, but it's taking the people that actually engage with your brand already and then targeting them with display ads that look like your audience. And then the other three are probably less popular, so I'll just run through them really quick. List retargeting is just taking targeting online consumers who are already in a database of prospects or consumers, and they pair with email marketing. Recommended though for this, you need a database of about 50K, so not usually something a small business is looking into, but something that can be beneficial, again, especially paired with email marketing. And then dynamic inventory retargeting is when you target consumers with ads specific to products they have been looking at on your website. Think about looking at a car and then how you see ads of that specific car everywhere you go. So again, this is kind of similar to the site retargeting, but with this, we're pulling specific products. So I'm on anthropology.com. I look at this dress instead of getting a generic anthro ad with their latest reveals. This is that exact dress. And then run of network is kind of what you see on the news channels. It targets all consumers within a specific geography, regardless of the demographic, behaviors, or devices to gain broad exposure and build brand awareness. So this is really a brand play. This FSCJ ad would be a great example of that. I think I was on News4Jax when I pulled this image. So this is those ads that those news stations give you space on their actual site to either take over, that kind of thing. You can go to the next slide. Sorry, I know that's a lot on targeted display, but there's so many different ways to brand there. And then social media advertising, this is probably most common among small businesses, especially if you're in the business to consumer space. So typically you're looking at Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn with this for a small business, but just know that all the social media platforms have a way to do this. YouTube, TikTok, they're all coming out with their way of advertising, obviously, but they just have different minimums and requirements. But again, most smaller new businesses are starting with Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. There's always different types of ads with that. So I'm showing you two here from Facebook. So one's in the news feed. That's probably what you're most used to seeing. And then with Facebook now, they do have the sponsored posts on the side as well. So and then you can do in the stories, all that kind of stuff. So Facebook and Instagram pretty much align since they're owned by each other. And then LinkedIn is a little bit unique, but shows up kind of in the same way, but obviously it's its own channel. So your advertising would be separate there. But that's really more for B2B versus Facebook and Instagram typically works best with B2C. kind of companies. One thing to note with LinkedIn, just a little advice on my end, we always tell clients, make sure you're advertising a specific giveaway. Branded type ads don't tend to perform as well on LinkedIn. So if you want to really maximize your budget there, we always recommend, hey, do you have a case study or a white paper or some kind of free consultation or whatever the case may be? That always converts better with the LinkedIn crowd. And with something like that, there's typically a higher cost for conversion. So I really want to make sure giving them something that's worth them giving your information. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal with LinkedIn ads, that you're getting some kind of form fills if there's not an easy way for them to purchase something on your website, especially because B2B, a lot of times it's a higher price point. So there need to be some conversations. So we're trying to get you their information so that you can nurture then that relationship from there. You can go to the next slide. And then just, always with social media advertising, before you jump in, you want to make sure you're thinking about, what do you really care about when it comes to conversions? Is it you just want more website traffic? Are you trying to get actual leads? All of that is important. So these are kind of the 4 conversions we see the most often. Website clicks, pretty straightforward. Somewhere in the ad, there's a button that says shop now, contact us, visit our site. It then leads them to your website. Retargeting means, as we've talked about a little bit, we're just increasing brand awareness. So we're driving people that have already been to your site or that are a lookalike, and we're just serving them the ads so that we're staying top of mind for them. Lead ads are typically within the actual platform, and it means they fill out that form and they're delivered straight to your inbox. So again, this is something like with Facebook and LinkedIn, where they don't have to leave the platform and we're getting you their information quickly so that you can follow up with them. This typically is seen and used in a service-based company. So for example, I have a mortgage company that I work with. They do this, and it's great for them because someone can go, oh yeah, I'm looking at a home and trying to get the best rate. They fill out the form, they get that lead automatically, and then they're able to call and within real time activate that. Typically, you're probably not looking at that for like an e-commerce type of thing. And then smart ads are where you're taking AI technology and you're optimizing placement and based on a budget, and you're actually putting in dynamic products or whatever the case may be. So this is taking that dynamic technology that we just talked about on display ads, it's doing it within social media. So, obviously Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they all want to control their advertising. So it's doing some of those same tactics, pulling direct feeds from your website in some cases in terms of inventory, and really optimizing based on this AI technology to show people your products in real time and help them to shop right then and there. So there's a lot that goes into smart ads, but that's kind of the high level. We've seen really good conversions here when it comes to e-commerce, being able to actually pull in a feed of your products versus a generic post about your company or your line, where they then have to go to your website and explore if they can just shop right in the app. That's kind of some of the stuff within here that we can do or that you can do and take advantage of. And it really tends to drive conversions. You can go to the next slide. So with that said, we're going to do a little activity. You can either have a pen and paper. There's going to be some polling questions, but all I want you to do is have in your head thinking through social media. I mean, social media, as we said, is a necessary evil. So we're going to go through, do you think your social media and just looking at one platform is set up for success? So if you want to go to the next slide, Jackie. We're going to break this down super simple. But the first one is choose the platform. As we walk through the next few slides, what platform do you want to be thinking through the lens of? We would obviously, in later date, want you to go back or work with us to go through all your platforms and do this exercise. But for time being, since we have a limited amount of time, just pick one. And we're going to poll you guys so we can kind of know who we're talking to. So we want to see who's actually using the social media for their business, and then which platform are you using the most? All right. We're seeing a lot of LinkedIn folks. I'm very surprised. Must mean we have a lot of B2B people on here, or maybe some B2C people. All right. Not surprised to see Facebook slowly behind. All right. So with that in mind, we'll kind of focus on LinkedIn and Facebook as I'm talking. Just know that the other platforms for your business could be really beneficial, but for our purposes, so that I'm talking to you guys, we have an accurate count. You can go to the next one. All right, so complete your profile. Do you want to share the next question, Jackie? All right, so we're going to ask you, what percentage of your social page profiles are completed? Do you think you're 100% complete? Do you think, oh gosh, I've barely got my name and my website on there? Do you have just the basics? Hey, my phone, we just want to get a gauge where you're at. But while you're filling that in, things to just consider when you're thinking through this, so say your LinkedIn or your Facebook. Verify your business name. I always recommend looking at something like Checkup or Name Check to see if your name is available. So for me, there is another JSK Marketing somewhere in the world. So I use JSK_marketing for my @ Now Facebook, you go, well, there's not an @ There actually is, so that people can search you pretty quickly. So I do that for my Instagram, if LinkedIn, my Twitter, all that kind of stuff, so that it's consistent across all platforms. Business address, business phone, have those on there. Unless you don't have a brick and mortar, then you can leave your address off. But we always say at least put your city so people know where you're locally driven. And then obviously you want to have your phone number, your URL or your domain, your website on there. And then always try to add, if it allows you to, somewhere for people to email you quickly. And ask questions. So that could be info @ marketing @ for me. I like people to reach out to me directly. I want to be able to respond right away. So I actually put my personal work email on there, but for you, whatever system works best. And then a general description. Again, keep it short. Facebook will let you get really long. LinkedIn is mediocre. Instagram and Twitter, though, are very limiting. So if you can use that same consistent description across all your platforms, again, it's just going to create consistency. It's going to make you more searchable, and people are going to be confident that they're looking at the same company as they visit each profile. And then also with that, always use your logo as your profile picture. I know people like to put cool backgrounds and stuff. And Facebook, you can get away with that, but LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, on your phone, those little icons get teeny tiny. So you want to make it as clear as possible to people that it's your brand and your profile. So I always say a clean logo on there is what does the best job. Use the creative stuff for your cover photo and your post. So let's see, most of you are just got the basics in there, which is pretty normal when I start working with clients. So don't feel bad about that. Hopefully you can take some of these tips afterwards and go in and clean up a little bit. And then you can always shoot me an email as well to ask for my opinion free of charge. I'll make sure if you want to just look at it and give you some advice, I'm happy to do that. But after this, you're going to get this tomorrow morning. I would go back through this and make sure these things that we've filled out are all up to date on your LinkedIn or Facebook profile, since most of you said that's your most important one. We can go to the next one, Jackie. All right, so this is one that people typically leave off their checklist when they get started. Is find fellow businesses to follow. You, to get followers, have to follow people first. So I always put on there first, think of 10 to 20 people you could be following that would likely follow you back or find value in following you back. They're not all going to follow you back, but I think Facebook, you can invite all your friends if you want. That's fine. I usually say be a little more strategic about it, but whatever's best. But like LinkedIn limits you to, I think, 100 a month. So go through, I spend a little bit of time each month for all my clients doing this for them, but you can do it simply too, inviting people to like your page. Instagram, you just have to follow them, they follow you back, that kind of thing. But think through people like competitors. Yes, competitors. The best companies know what their competition are doing, and there's no harm in following them and seeing what they're doing. They're probably doing it to you too. Clients, obviously follow all your clients, know what they're up to, celebrate their wins with them. This is a great way for you to upsell or have conversations with them when you can see they have a need. Prospective clients, show them that you are engaged and that you're doing your research ahead of time. Always follow your prospective clients, and do this from your business page, not just your private personal page, but your business page, to help give exposure to your brand and not just you. You are an extension of your brand, obviously, but we want your brand to get that momentum as well. Fellow industry leaders. So is there someone in your industry that's the guru? Who's at all the conferences? That kind of stuff. Think through those people, follow them, see what they're saying, comment on their stuff. That is important for your brand too, because that's going to get you a much larger exposure. And then industry influencers. So who are writing the books in your industry, who are kind of the gods per se in your industry, follow them. Again, same thing with industry leaders. It's going to help you get a larger approach, especially if you're engaging with those people and commenting as your brand on their profiles or on their businesses. That's really going to do you good in the long run in terms of getting a bigger amount of exposure, especially since most of you said you're on LinkedIn. That's the bread and butter of how LinkedIn works. The more people like or comment on your stuff, it gets spread to a bigger population. It's all about the connectivity with LinkedIn. So that's really important for you guys, this step especially. And then from there, making sure you're engaging with those folks as you have time. I know you say, oh, but just think through how many, you're waiting in a waiting room, take a few minutes, see what people, is there something we're saying, that kind of stuff. And then we can go to the next one, Jackie. Define your content. So I think we have one more question here. What's the main goal of your social channel? When you're creating content, we have to know a goal at the end of the day. Just a little nudge here. 80% of your content should be fun or informative or valuable, and then only 20% the hard sell. Even if you're kind of mentioning a service or a product you have, don't say, contact me now. Let's make it valuable, make it worthwhile for people, and then that'll lead to them contacting, but only 20% should be like the hard sell, hey, contact me today. It looks like a lot of you are trying to educate or share about your culture. I think that's great. Culture is huge for social media. People, obviously, it's a great recruiting tool if you're posting about it on social media, but also people just like to see that you're fun or that you're engaging or that you really care about your employees. So the more you can show off the culture and how that emulates into your service or your product, the better. So I think that's great. And then obviously education is important. You need to be educating on your product, your service, so that people know why you, what makes you different. There's always 100 of us that can offer the same thing. So that's just for you to keep in mind. And then the next thing is then creating the content with that goal in mind. So again, that 80-20 rule, sales, whatever, sales versus fun, engaging, being consistent is key with this. We already talked about that earlier, but just keep through that. Are you posting 3 times a week? Okay, that's a great starting point, but make sure you're doing that every week. Don't go, hey, I posted every day this week, and then you don't post for 3 weeks. So think through that with your LinkedIn and Facebook. How often are you posting, and are you doing it on a regular cadence? And then our last question we're going to ask is, are you using a social media management tool? Because if you're not, it's going to help you with this content calendar. So I really encourage, while you're answering that, think through, am I using a tool that can make this easier for me or whoever's in charge of my social media? If not, if you partner with someone like me, there's usually already a system in place that's included in your fee. If you're doing it in-house, like I said, there's plenty I can recommend out there for you to use. So it looks like most of you aren't using a tool, which is pretty normal. Don't feel like you're failing at all. But that content calendar, that's going to be the crucial next step, is making sure you have a tool that helps you stick to that calendar so you're not having to do it in live time. And then these are some additional steps that if you want to set up a call with me or even just think through them or shoot me an email, that for your social media checklist, are you engaging with others? So that's why I was saying comment, like, all that kind of stuff on those people that are on that list of 10 to 20 we just made quickly. Monitor your mentions, be tracking what people are saying, engage with people when they comment on your stuff or like it or share it. Fine tune your brand voice as you see what people are relating to. Let's tune your posts to really engage with that. And then, make sure you're creating more stuff that's like what your people are liking. And then promote your other channels on each channel. So I get the most engagement on Instagram. So occasionally I'll say, hey, make sure you're following me on LinkedIn or Facebook to stay up to date, that kind of stuff. And then monitor your social presence. Always be looking at the metrics to know what's working and what's not working, so you can fine tune your messaging and your posts to make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck with social media as a marketing tool. So I know that was really, really quick and I went through a lot of information. So again, I'll ask really quickly because I know I'm running a little bit behind. Does anyone have any questions? And if not, you can I think the next slide has all my information. If you want, or 2 slides from there. So you're welcome to email me offline too, because I know sometimes with marketing, it can be unique to your business. Again, I'm always happy to help and be a resource and, just explore different opportunities with each of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. I will track and monitor the chat to see if anybody has any questions come in. And like Jen mentioned, you can always feel free to reach out to her. We'll share the content of today's presentation with you tomorrow morning on the online classroom. So with that, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I learned a lot, so thank you very much for sharing. All right, awesome. So with that, I am going to transition and we are going to talk a little bit about supplier diversity. So with that, I want to introduce Dr. Wendy Norfleet. I have the opportunity of knowing Wendy through different connections and groups we're involved in, and she's an incredible woman. Just to let you know, she was the Small Business Leader of the Year for 2021. So kudos, we're super proud of her for that. She was also the Jacksonville Business Journal's Women of Influence for 2020. She is currently the CEO and founder of Northfleet Integrated Solutions, which partners with individuals and organizations to assess, envision, develop, and execute solutions that will increase productivity, improve performance, and inspire a continuous focus on excellence. She's a published author and holds a life coach, leadership development, and career development certifications. Wendy also went through our supplier diversity program with the Women's Business Center, so I really wanted to have her here so that she could share what supplier diversity means, how to go about it, and her background with it. So with that, thank you so much, Wendy. I'm going to spotlight you, and I will let you share your screen when you're ready.
It's thinking. Okay. All right. Thank you for having me here. And as Jackie mentioned, I will be talking about supplier diversity, and I will be talking about it. I've been on both sides of it. I'm currently obviously on the diverse supplier side. And so I just want to go through a few things that hopefully you'll find this really helpful. And some of it is, best practices that we forget. Sometimes we just forget when we're in the middle of things. So there's so much to talk about in regards to supplier diversity. As Jackie mentioned, the Women's Business Center had a whole, I think it was a 7-week program. So obviously I can't provide 7 weeks of information here, but to make sure I cover enough to provide value, I want to first discuss the inception of supplier diversity, its definition, and why it's important. Next, I'll identify who are diverse suppliers and the benefits of supplier diversity, because obviously there is a benefit in this. And then I'll share my story, some of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's start by taking a quick poll so I know who is out there. So I just want to find out if you are a company that is one of the suppliers, or are you one of the diverse suppliers? And Jackie, if you can do the poll, that would be great.
Got about 62%. Wait, all right,
Okay.
75. All right, there we go. Almost everybody. Perfect.
Okay, so it looks like most are neither or unsure. So that's okay. So let's talk a little bit about it, and hopefully by the end, if you're one of the ones that are unsure, you might be neither. You might just be looking for information, but if you're one of the ones unsure, hopefully at the end of this, you'll understand which one you are. Okay. So maybe, okay. So supplier diversity, just a little bit of the history. It originated in the United States. And the reason I say that is because it is now global. There are other countries that have adopted legislature for supplier diversity. So it was born out of the civil rights movement, and it was really driven by some legislative mandates. It was rooted in the Civil Rights Act, and this was championed by President Kennedy. But it didn't really begin to gain traction and flourish until President Nixon created the Office of Minority Business Enterprise. It's one of those things where, you know what, sometimes to make it count, you have to make it official. And so with that creation of the Office of Minority Business Enterprise, it really gained traction. And he also issued an executive order that directed federal agencies to develop comprehensive plans and specific program goals for a national minority business enterprise contracting program. And that's really what kind of what we're using today. And in plain talk, what it does is supplier diversity, it equalizes the playing field so that everyone has access to the same opportunities in the business arena. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. Just imagine if a lot of times as smaller companies, we think that we don't have the same advantages. And that's true in the sense that we may not have the same resources, but at least we have some of the same opportunities. And so if we take a look at who's included in supplier diversity, even though it's often viewed as a program, it's in fact a strategy. And what that strategy does is seeks out and welcomes diverse suppliers, regardless of their ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic status. As some of those know, just because you're invited to the table, you don't always have a voice or feel included. And so this was I guess, an opportunity or a targeted program to make people feel included. And so I'll talk more about this when I share my journey, because like I said, I've been on both sides. And so I have a few stories to tell. So we talk about these supplier diversity programs, but first we need to understand what diverse suppliers are. And so let's consider this. So the definition for a diverse supplier is any business that is at least 51% owned and operated by an individual or group that is part of a traditionally underrepresented or underserved group. Okay, and obviously there's some common categories here. So the common categories are identified as businesses that are 51% owned by minority, women, LGBTQ, veteran, service disabled veteran, disabled, historically unutilized business. And this last category, this really refers to the hub zone. And this is a company level diversity designation. And this helps small businesses located in distressed areas. Because a lot of times, especially if you are a consumer type business where people come to you, you really are at a disadvantage if you're in a location that's not desirable. And so there are certain zones within most cities that are identified as hub zones. And so therefore they have some preferential access to federal procurement opportunities. And so if these businesses exist, they have a little leg up. So we know what the benefits are to diverse suppliers. We get some opportunities, we get some access, but there are also benefits to organizations, because obviously there has to be a benefit, because a lot of companies, without even, really the prompting, they make sure they really have supplier diversity. So in addition to being the right thing to do, Organizations that participate in supplier diversity enjoy many benefits. These include innovation, fresh ideas, and additional capabilities. Having been on both sides of the supplier diversity, I like to explain it like this. Imagine if you're working for an organization and everyone has been groomed the same way. There is no diversity of thought or action. Using diverse suppliers bring innovation, something that may not have been thought of previously. And when I first got my PhD, I had thought about teaching at one of the universities that I had got my degree from. And they told me, they said, while we would love to have you as part of us, we don't hire from our doctoral staff unless you go out and get tenured from another university and come back. And at first I thought that was really mean, but I actually appreciated it because they didn't want to have group think. They didn't want everyone to think the same. They wanted you to gain some experiences, gain some, ways of doing things that was different from them, and then bring it back. And that way, sometimes when we talk about iron sharpens iron, they wanted to, sharpen each other. They wanted to think about it. So I know that sounds harsh, but it's really a great way to, I guess, foster diversity of thinking. So Jackie, let's do poll 2. I want to just see, out of the diverse supplier, I think there was a couple of diverse suppliers, who has taken advantage of the supplier diversity program, any supplier diversity program, whether on the city, state, federal, or organizational level. Okay, that's okay, because a lot of people don't really understand it. And one of the things that we do is we do business coaching. And so we work with a lot of our clients to help them through the process. And there's a lot of free resources. And even when I got mine, I went through to the SBDC because there were some parts of it, this is my first time being on this side of it. And so I actually had to go and understand, because there was some terminology I wasn't really sure of. I didn't want to mess it up. But I'm glad to say that I've been on SAM, I think, for 3 years now. And SAM is for federal contracting. It is the tool they use for federal contracting. All right. So let me talk about how does supplier diversity work in reality. So as I mentioned, been on both sides. So I really want to encourage you to take advantage of, if you're looking to do this, first of all, you don't have to go through any type of process. I chose to be recognized as a federal contractor, but you don't have to do that. So you can take advantage of it in so many different ways. A lot of companies, they understand that a lot of people are not ready to be federal contractors, but there are a lot of local businesses that have meet and greets. We have our, I think it is JEA. I want to say it was JEA. I just got invited to one last Monday. I wasn't able to make it, but they have monthly meet and greet sessions. And these are important because a lot of times people retain suppliers that they're familiar with. And it's almost like, how we talk about networking when we're looking for a job. It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Same thing is with these supplier diversity in some cases. Sometimes once they get to know you, understand what you do, then, they'll reach out to you. And I'm finally starting to see that as part of my company. So I've been in business a little bit over 4 years. And this past year, probably a year and a half, because during COVID, I got a lot of calls, but it was like, finally, I don't have to reach out to as many people. People have been reaching out to me. So it's been really great. So you want to take advantage of those. Those sessions are free. And yes, it does take a little bit of time. And sometimes, the first couple of times you go in there, people may not really be friendly. And it's not that they're not friendly. They came there to network, and sometimes they have their mind on meeting one or two particular people, and they don't want to waste their time chit-chatting because those are limited sessions. So they want to make sure that they get in there, do what they need to do. One of the other things, regardless if you are taking advantage of the program or not, you should prepare a capability statement. And this is a good ideal because a lot of times people can't concisely identify their business competencies. And preparing a capability statement will make you do that. So think of this document as your business resume. And usually it's a one-page, well-written document. And it really helps you articulate your value, which is needed in any business. And your value when you first start out, a lot of times when you start a business, your value is coming from your street creds or, you know, your actions in the past. So it's really hard to disassociate your previous behavior from a new business. And so keep in mind that until you start building up that business, whatever you bring to the table is your value. A lot of times people look at it as your brand. And so a lot of people spend a lot of money trying to build that brand. But believe me, when you start a business, you do have a brand. It may not be what you want it to be, but you do have a brand. Okay. So even when you've done everything that you can do to help kind of foster this being a supplier diversity program, being part of it, you really can't frustrate organizations with a me first mentality. And what I mean by that is a lot of times, you know, you go to a meet and greet and then the next thing you know, you're like hounding the person, for lack of a better word. Okay. It's almost like, you know, when, I tell my little kid, I have a 7-year-old and she's always trying to get my attention, like me. And so you have to be respectful and understand that you are not the only supplier that they're dealing with. And so you want to make sure that, do the follow-ups, do the, touch points, but want to make sure it's respectful. It's not like every day, haven't heard from you yet. I can remember being on the organization side and a vendor, I promise you that for about 20 something days, they sent me the first email. It was nice meeting you, looking forward to, receiving opportunities, notices of opportunities, blah, blah, blah. It was a nice thank you. And the next day they forwarded that original email message saying, don't forget about me. And so by the end of 22, 23 days, I had a long chain of emails from this one vendor. Needless to say, by the time I was ready to display stuff, even if that vendor had applied, I don't know if, unless we had to do the best bid, I don't know if that person would have gotten the bid, just because they went from thankful to annoying really quick. All right. And so we need to keep that in mind. You probably can't read all this, but because you're getting this presentation, this is one of my earlier capability statements. And so I show you this because I didn't have a lot of past performance, and past performance just means people you did work for, because I was a new business, but I had a lot of things that I felt differentiated me. And so I put that in there, and I put a brief statement about what the company does. And since then I've modified this, but I thought that may be helpful for some of you who think that the capability statement is this long drawn out statement. And you'll notice that I picked this design purposefully, because you notice that there's a lot of space at the top, a lot of space in the bottom, but the middle looks balanced, because I didn't have a lot in there and I didn't want it to all be all squished up, and I didn't want to have to use, a 16 or 17 point font to fill it up. So I tried to make sure it looked good. Okay. And I had several people help me review it, but it was probably pretty good, because I did get quite a few. I haven't ever applied for anything directly through federal contracting, but just having this information out there, I've gotten picked up. Like, somebody wins the contract, but then now they want to farm off part of the work. And so, you know what? I don't have to have the huge contracts, small contracts are good. And a lot of companies, they have thresholds, and especially within government, they have thresholds that, for the smaller projects, they don't even have to bid. They can just go directly to the company. And so I'm okay with being that person. I know a lot of people I talked to when I was getting started, they said, oh, we don't go after the small stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go after the small stuff. I'm okay with that. So let me just tell you a little bit. So as I've mentioned before, I've been on both sides of the supplier diversity. So in Michigan, I'm from Michigan. So in Michigan, Oklahoma, and here in Jacksonville for my first 6 years, I was on the side of the fence where I had to make sure that we were being inclusive and meeting our goals of using diverse suppliers. So each organization had different thresholds for using these suppliers. And as part of my experiences, we had to cultivate our diverse suppliers a little differently. So for example, when I first started in the capacity where I was actually hiring vendors, it was when the internet was still, in its infancy. And so therefore that was not the way to go out and get people. And so we ended up joining a lot of organizations, and they had lists that they would mail out. And so we would ask them to send it out to their populations. We would put it in the newspapers. And obviously this was quite a while ago because newspapers were still probably the best way to get information out. And then as we, in some of my, when I was in Oklahoma and then in Jacksonville, of course, the internet was more prevalent. And so we started going to using the internet. But still, we can't use the internet only as far as posting it on our site. In order to reach the diverse supplier, sometimes we have to go to them. And so there's a lot of organizations like the Women Business Owners, or there is a, I can't remember the name of the group, but there's a group for Native Americans. And so there's a lot of different groups that you have to make sure that you send things for. One of the things I did is I oversaw one of my companies, a quarterly meet and greet. And so therefore we get to know people, we get to see how they behave. And we don't mean behave like, you have to behave a certain way, but, see, if they come, are they polite? Are they, are they showing up? Are they able to answer questions when we pose questions to them? And one of my tests was, in order to get to me, you have to go through my assistant. And so my assistant, if anyone was rude to them, let me just tell you, they got off the list pretty quick. So on the business owner side, my journey was a little bit different because, being on the other side, I kind of had an ideal, what some of the people went through, but I didn't really know. And so coming from up north where people schedule a business meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, a lot of times decisions are made, and moving to Jacksonville where it's more relationship cultivated, you really do have to get to know people. And it's almost that they have to see if you're going to, stay in business. They have to understand what you're about. They have to see you in action. And then they start, calling you for business. And this was my experience. I went to some of the meet and greets. I made sure I followed up with some of the people that were there or holding these sessions, and very inintrusive way, thank you for holding the session. I really enjoyed meeting with you. Looking forward to the next opportunity, you put out. Maybe every other month I would send something, but really inintrusive. If they were having some type of event that was open to the public, I would go. It is an investment in time, but the time paid off. And so I just want to leave you with something that I don't think a lot of people appreciate, is be mindful of the 3 Ps. Be persistent. You can't just go to one meet and greet and expect them to send you something personal. At the meet and greet, you'll find out how they post their opportunities. That's the number one thing you can get out of a meet and greet, is how do they post the opportunities? Some companies do it differently. Some people post, when they have a need. Some people save them up because they have to have a team to review them. You'll find all that information out. So have your questions ready. So you want to be persistent. If you don't get the information you need at the first one, maybe you came in late or something, go to the next one. Be professional. You're being evaluated. It's one of those things like when you tell people being interviewed, you're always on. As a business owner, you're always on. People are looking at you, they're evaluating you. I can go to something social and people are evaluating me. I know that. And then you want to be patient. It doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes this is a do, repeat process. You do it, repeat it, do it, repeat it process. And so you gotta keep these in mind though, because sometimes, let me just tell you, starting a business, you're thinking about, oh my gosh, I need business. But this will bring you business, but it's a process, okay? And so be very mindful of that. I'm sorry, my daughter, sorry. So what I want to leave you with is supplier diversity is a program that is useful to larger organizations as well as to the diverse suppliers. You want to practice the 3 Ps. You want to be able to articulate your value. What are you bringing? Why should someone hire you versus another company? Because there are more than one company. You are not the only company doing something. Sorry about that. And then don't give up. Don't think just because you don't have it now that you can't have it. And so this is just really important. And I just can't stress this enough, because let me just tell you, if I was faint of heart, I would not be where I am now. And as Jackie mentioned, I got Small Business Leader of the Year for 2021. And this is a huge, huge accolade. And so this is my contact information. Jackie's going to provide these slides to you. So please reach out. We do complimentary consultations for business that are trying to get into space and cultivate it. And we enjoy working with people. And just if you have a question, or you have some, you just have a question, or you want some advice. So awesome. Jackie, turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Truly, truly appreciate you diving into supplier diversity, explaining the needs and assets of it, and how it really can take somebody to the next level. Really appreciate you, all that you do. I'm sorry we went a few minutes over. I know you are back to back as well as others. So thank you very much, Wendy. I'll let you go. And okay. I'll just close up for the group really quick. Some housekeeping kind of items for everybody. So to let you know, we did record today's session. We'll have access to you for the presentations for you to be able to look back and review. We'll make sure that you get Jen and Wendy's contact information. And just know that today, after the program ends, we're going to have a survey that goes out. If you don't fill it out today, you'll get a follow-up email tomorrow. Feel free to do it then. But it really helps us kind of gauge the participation as well as the topics that we're presenting to you. There's an area on there for future topics of reference, so please share with us. This helps us make our program stronger for you. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, for being here for our quarterly forum with the SBA. My name is Jackie Peralt, and I'll send you all off for your rest of your night. Take care.